What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox, and today we are talking the NBA Finals and also the AFC South with my guy. You can tell why. Munaf Manji of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. You see that little Texans sign behind him if you're watching us on ESPN. So we're going to preview the NFC South. How are you feeling before we get into like the nitty gritty of it? How are we feeling about the Texans this year?
I'm feeling good. I mean, I know you and I have talked about it a lot that this team was an absolute poverty franchise. I'll put it that way, for lack of
Yeah,
better words.
I think it's accurate.
Before we finally got the head coach, D'Amico Ryans, and finally getting a quarterback in CJ Stroud. But I know we'll talk about it more later on, but love the offseason acquisitions. A lot of things that we did address at the skill positions with Stephon Diggs. We'll see how long he sticks around. Joe Mixon in the backfield. So it's headed in the right direction. And again, a team that's, when you have a great young talent like CJ Stroud, you really want to capitalize. And I feel like they're taking the Cincinnati Bengals approach where you have a quarterback on a rookie contract and then try to build around him and try to make a push for the Super Bowl. But we'll see.
We shall see, and we are going to get into the NFC South a little bit later, but we got to get in some NBA action right now. Munaf is the co-host for the NBA podcast on the Sports Gambling Network. He also has a propcast that he does for all NBA props. All right, moving on to the NBA Finals. Celtics are up 2-0, defeating the Mavericks on Sunday night, 105-98. The Celtics get 26 points from Drew Holiday, and that's just been the interesting thing with this team is Jason Tatum, scoring-wise, Munaf, has not been there. Now, he's made up for it with rebounds and or assists, kind of trading off those in the first two games. But scoring, he has scored under 20 points in the first two games. We had Porzingis step up in game one. You had Drew Holiday step up in this one, and that's what makes this Celtics team so hard to beat is they have so many shooters. Somebody could have an off day, and somebody else is going to pick up the slack. Any key takeaways from game two? Did your bets hit? Did you think the Celtics were going to win this one? Were you hopeful the Mavs could keep it close? What'd you think?
Yeah, depending on the number that you did get, this number got as high as 7.5. It dipped down to 6.5. I was right there in the middle. I had the +7, so I ended up pushing and just getting my money back. But you mentioned it, right? I think the whole key thing for the Boston, and that's the difference between these two teams in Dallas and Boston, is that you nailed it, Katie, that you have for the Boston Celtics one guy that can step up on us any given night. And if a guy like Jason Tatum has an off night, okay, well, game one, it was Porzingis. Game two was Drew Holiday. Jason Tatum hasn't shot particularly well in the first two games. We know that he's going to turn it around. He's done relatively well on the road this season, in the playoffs as well. So, and the scary part is that they still won this game by 7 points. And the team that really relies on the 3-point shot, Katie, they only shot 25.6%. So you're going to expect that to really regress back to the mean. So I feel like Dallas is in a little bit of trouble here.
I think they're in a lot of trouble here. And you think about one, Luka is injured. Now, I know he's been injured this entire time. He still dropped 30 points, or 32 rather, in the game two. He's got a thoracic contusion?
Yeah,
thoracic contusion on top of the knee sprain, on top of the left ankle soreness. I mean, the guy's going through everything, but the difference between the Celtics, and you hit on this, and the Mavs is the Mavs have Luka and they have Kyrie, but outside of that, they don't have the shooters. And I think that the Celtics have done a really good job. They're not double teaming Luka, right? They're like, hey, you score as many as you need to score, but we're going to stop you from facilitating the ball and making sure that the role players can step up and score. And we've seen that to be a huge problem because Luka's still dropping great numbers. Kyrie, he's okay. It's not for a lack of really good looks, right? A lot of those could have come in, but I feel like in game one and game two, they were just, spinning out or not getting in, but he certainly had some good looks. We expect him to get better, but who else on the Mavs is going to step up? Is it PJ Washington? I mean, somebody else has to score, and they've been able to I mean, I think Luka had like 9 assists or something in this last game, so he went over. I've been getting cooked, Munaf, in the NBA Finals so far. One, I had the Celtics minus the 3.5 in the first half.
Oh,
it was 3. And then I live bet the Mavericks plus 6.5 for the second half. I mean, it's like I died by the hook on both ends of this. I had Luka under on his assists because he's been pretty low on the assists, and I saw
Mhm.
what the Celtics were doing. He gets 9. It's just like I felt like this has been hard to bet. Have you had some issues, or is it just me?
So I did have Drew Holiday PRA under yesterday.
Uh,
That one just went up in flame by the end of the
yeah,
first quarter. I did play PJ Washington's PRA because, like you mentioned, he's been the more consistent role player next to Kyrie and Luca on his PRA. If you just want to look at his points as well, but he hasn't particularly shot the ball any better himself. But he's been able to get to the basket and to the free throw line for PJ Washington. But I've always said that when it comes to the playoffs, especially the role players tend to play a lot better at home because they're comfortable in their home settings. They
true,
played
true.
41 games during the regular season, and they can get behind the fans. The thing with Dallas is that yeah, Luca had a great game last night, but as if you watch as the game like progresses, he gets
Mhm.
gradually worse. He had I think a
Oh, yeah.
20-point first quarter. The fourth quarter, he just has not been very good, and that's where you kind of want Kyrie Irving to step up. He just hasn't been able to. But again, you got to give Dallas a lot of credit. Sorry, the Boston Celtics a lot of credit for the way they've been able to play defense and hold
Yeah.
this Dallas Mavericks offense to blow 100 points in game two. Um, Free throw shooting has not been very good as well for the Dallas Mavericks. If they made one more free throw, we'd be having a different conversation about them
Well,
covering the spread here as well.
yeah, Munaf, I mean, you heard what Luka said after the game. He's like, "Yeah, I got a triple-double, but I
Mm.
had 8 turnovers, 5 of those in the
Yeah.
second half, by the way." So when you talk about him dropping off in the second half, I think that has to do with his injuries probably, and he missed 3 free throw shots, so that's huge. Now it's not his fault
Yeah.
that they lost, but to your point, the free throws and the turnovers have been killer.
Yeah, and then I mean, you can also look back and if you saw that 3-pointer that Peyton Pritchard made at the end of the third quarter, which was like 35 or 40 feet away from the basket at the buzzer. That's another shot that got them the cover on the spread as well. But it's just the fact right now for this Boston Celtics team, it's pretty simple. They have the depth. They have 4 to 5 different guys. Dallas is very reliant on 2 guys, and you nailed it, Katie. That
Mhm.
Boston is saying, "Hey, let's let Luca get whatever he
Yeah,
wants. We'll cover everybody else." And Kyrie Irving, in particular, as great as he's been, he just hasn't been able to get that separation because the defense has been able to stay in front of him and really limit what he's been able to do. Does that change maybe going forward in game 3 and 4? I'm not sure. But Dallas needs to figure out very, very quickly because now they have the monumental task of having to win 4 of the next 5 games to win the NBA Finals. I'm not sure they're not going to be able to do
no.
that.
I don't think they're gonna be able to do that either. I think I look, I was on Dallas, to come out in 7 before this started. After 2 games, I think the Celtics can get out in 5. I think that the Mavs maybe win just 1 game here.
I mean, I do expect. I know you and I talked about Tony Brothers the last time I
Yeah.
was on here. I do expect Scott Foster to be on this call here,
Oh, yeah.
and he has been a little bit more favorable to the home teams here. But I don't think the NBA wants another case where we saw in the conference finals that one was a sweep, one was over in 5 games.
Yeah.
They probably want to get this at least 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
But I think Dallas does respond in game 2 here. They just
Agreed.
have to be a little bit better offensively. Just make free throws, like Luca mentioned, cut down on the turnovers because they themselves been playing pretty good defense. I mean, we've saw this Boston Celtics team throughout the regular season just walk into 120 plus points on a given night. But yeah, I expect them to make the adjustments here. They have to get obviously one of these 2 games, if not both, at home for Dallas. If not, 1, 2, 3 Cancun for Dallas.
Well, I know. If they can win the next 2, that'll make things, very exciting.
Oh
I'm just
yeah,
not sure that they can. But
yeah.
one thing I will say is that, in game 1, it was Porzingis that went off like
Mhm.
a bat out of hell. It's almost like he couldn't miss a shot there in the first quarter, but he unfortunately has re-injured himself. They're doing imaging on his right leg, after he came out limping in game 2. Are you worried at all about Porzingis and his role on the Celtics with the Celtics?
Definitely. I think more so on the defensive side because he gives you that
Yeah,
great rim protection and he makes things difficult. I mean, at his 7'3" frame, I mean, trying to get a shot over that guy, it's going to be very, very difficult. So I think, we talked about offensively that the Boston Celtics have the guys, right? Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Derek White, guys coming off of the bench. But I think Porzingis is more impactful for at least for me on the defensive side where he gives him that rim protection. So if he's going to be missing maybe a couple games or possibly the rest of the series, if you're a Boston Celtics fan, you're hoping that it's nothing too serious because you want him out there, obviously.
yeah.
But I think that just opens up opportunities for Dallas to get to the basket a little bit easier because Porzingis has been really, really solid blocking shots and giving them that rim protection.
All right, when we talk about the NBA, finals, who's gonna win, I think both of us at this point don't think the Mavericks have
Yeah.
a chance, to I mean, there's always a chance, but
Yeah.
not really. But when we look at the current MVP odds, according to our friends over at Caesars, Jason Tatum's still the favorite at +110, and he has been, I mean, scoring wise, largely unproductive. Now he has been facilitating the ball. He has been
Mhm.
a game um, player, if you will. Then you got Jalen Brown at +175, Luca at 6 to 1, Drew Holiday 8 to 1. When you look at this, do you think? I mean, I don't see any reason to bet Jason Tatum here.
No, unless Jason Tatum has an incredible 35, 40 point game, which he's fully capable of doing. Let's not forget that. Um, but I really do think it's Jalen Brown right now, what he's been able to
Yeah,
do scoring wise and defensively, because I think in game one, he recorded 3 steals and 3 blocks. Game two, he also, I believe, he had another 3 steals in that game. He's, I believe, been the only guy that scored 20 plus points in both games one and game two for Boston. So he's been a little bit more impactful on both ends. I know Jason Tatum has been getting the rebounds and assists, 12 assists in game two. But I do expect Jason Tatum to have a better shooting night going forward. But if the finals ended last night, I think it would have been Jalen Brown getting his first Finals MVP for the
yeah.
Celtics team.
Yeah, we had this our friend Frank Michael Smith on the other day, and he was telling us how impressive Jalen Brown is academically and the things that he's done. Obviously, graduating from Cal, he was on the chess team. He has done stuff with NASA, done stuff with MIT. He's learning how to speak Arabic. Like the man is. And why don't we just add NBA Finals MVP along with it? So let's take a look at Game 3, which will be Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern, or must not be Eastern, 5:30
Probably
Pacific, I
Pacific,
would
yeah.
say. Yeah. So Celtics are dogs here. Dallas laying 2 at home. Total 212.5. Any early thoughts on this one? Do you think Dallas can win and cover
Well,
the
they're gonna
basket?
have to.
Yeah.
I think if you do like Dallas, you would probably want to get them early. Whether you're going to if you want to pivot to like a first quarter, first
Okay.
half, because traditionally we've seen, and the books have adjusted to this. Traditionally, it was a really profitable bet that teams that were down 2 games to nothing coming back home, just coming out and playing with that desperation behind their home crowd, that kind of gave them a boost. But I think the books have adjusted to that now. But I would still look at
Mm.
them in the first quarter. They won the first quarter in game two. They came out and played
Oh,
well,
yeah.
right? Led by Luke. And
Yeah.
I think that's something going to happen again. So I would look at him in the first quarter. I'm not sure if I do trust him full game. I think there is definitely an opportunity here. I think this is going to be a public versus a pros type of
Hmm.
game, because the regular public measure may say, "Hey, Boston's are an underdog in this game. They're up 2 games to nothing after
Yeah.
taking care of business." Uh, Gun to my head, I'll go with Dallas here. I think they find a way to get this done. Whether they play better offensively, whether they play better defensively. Luca has maybe a 35, 40 point game. Kyrie Irving steps up being back at home. Dallas for me on -2, but I will be on their first quarter. I believe that number was -1 for them in the first quarter as well.
Yeah. I like the first quarter bet for them. The Celtics have been one of the best first half teams
Yeah.
all season long. Of course, they Jason Tatum had to hit that meaningless shot so that they whatever, it doesn't matter. I missed that shot. All right, so moving on. We're gonna take a quick break here. When we come back, we're talking the AFC South. I'm gonna get into the Texans with our guy Munaf Manji of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Stick around. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Back here on Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook, here with Munaf Manji of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We're going to get into some NFL now and take a look at the AFC South, preview the teams' win totals, what their odds are to win the division, those sort of bets. So we got to start, obviously, with your Texans. I got your initial thoughts on this at the top of the show. But CJ Stroud is tied for the second highest odds to win next year's MVP. Is that a little
Uh,
crazy? Is that a
yeah,
little crazy?
a little bit. It's a
Yeah.
little bit. Look, he definitely overachieved last year. I don't think a lot of people were expecting this from CJ Stroud last year, but give him a lot of credit. I think it's a bit of overreaction from him. And again, last year for this Texans team, that running game was really non-existent. So
Mhm.
they really had to rely on CJ Stroud's arm for them to win games and go on to win the division. But they traded for Joe Mixon from the Cincinnati Bengals, give him a little bit of stability there.
Yeah.
Um, Damian Pierce hasn't really panned out for this team just yet. I'm not sure if he will. Maybe it took him a couple years to get playing at the professional level, beef up the offensive line. But I just think that's a little outrageous for CJ Stroud to be the second favorite MVP right now. Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Let's pump the brakes a little bit, and let's also remember the sophomore slump is a real
Yeah.
thing, with quarterbacks. That tends to happen
Mhm.
because when you're playing with house money in the first year, now there's all of a sudden expectations against you. You gotta think the Texans last year had one of the easiest schedules.
Yeah.
That's not gonna be the case
Nope.
this year. They had no primetime games, right? I believe last year, every game was Sunday in the 1 p.m. slot, which, of course, then you get that continuity. There's no short weeks. They've got a primetime game, I think, week 2, right, versus the Bears, coming up, and then they've also got a Monday night game, week 11, where they visit the Cowboys. So it's a different schedule. It's in every way that you can see a different schedule in terms of your opponents that you're facing, and then
Yeah.
certainly you're not going to have the continuity of every single Sunday 1 p.m. having a game. But I love this Texans team. I mean, D'Amico Ryans obviously came from the 49ers. Well, he's a great coach. I think that CJ Stroud was amazing. There was all of that chatter ahead of last season that he wasn't going to draft as high as he did. And by the way, I think he was the best of all the rookie
Oh
quarterbacks
yeah.
last year. I mean, exceeding all expectations, as you said. Not only did they make the playoffs, but they won their division, and then they went on and they won one game in the playoffs. Nobody expected that from them. Unfortunately, now everybody expects a lot of things from them. And their win total, Munaf, is at 9.5. When was the last time the Texans had a 9.5 season win total?
It was probably when Deshaun Watson was the quarterback. Maybe I want to say like his second or third year with this team,
Yeah.
where we still had DeAndre Hopkins at that point.
Hmm. And
Um,
JJ Watt.
Yeah, JJ Watt on the defensive side as well. You mentioned the schedule for this Texans team. The first 8 weeks, they have 7 of the 8 games are in that 12 o'clock window. So a little bit of continuity there.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, they do have their primetime game in week 2 against Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. But it's the fact that last year we played a last place schedule because obviously we were last place the previous year, and now you have a first place schedule because we did finish as the AFC South champion. So you have games against the Lions, you have games against the Chiefs, the
The
Ravens,
Ravens, the Bills.
the
I mean,
Bills.
it's
Yeah,
tough.
so it's going to be tough sledding for this Texans team, but I think they're going to be up to it, right? We talk a lot
Hmm.
about the moves that they made on the offensive side, adding Stephon Diggs as well as a number one wide receiver next to Nico Collins. That gives CJ Stroud a little bit more weapons on the defensive side. They added a double-digit sack guy in Daniil Hunter. I think that was a huge pickup, along with Will Anderson, who won Defensive Rookie of the Year. So I know D'Amico Ryan's going to cook or coach up, I should say, the defensive guys. I just want to see that consistency. And like you mentioned, the sophomore slump for CJ
Hmm.
Stroud. I hope it's not too big because, again, the
Yeah.
talent for this Texans team, being especially in this division, the AFC South, which is not very good. I know we'll talk about more of the teams in a bit here, but um, this is the window right now for the Texans, right? The next 2, 3, 4 years before you have to pay CJ Stroud. So you need to capitalize it
Yeah.
as much as you can.
Yeah. So this 9.5, you going over or under?
I'm gonna be a homer. I'm gonna take the over.
Yeah, let's
Um,
go over.
yeah,
Odds to win the AFC South, even money. I mean, duh, right?
Yeah, I think minimum they'll get 10. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if they do get 11 wins here. I just like the additions that they did make, in the offseason, both on the offensive and defensive side. And they have a coach now that you want to play for. You
Mhm,
see how
mhm.
animated and excited he gets for his players. So, and that's something that you want to see from your head coach. So yeah, I'm going to take the over for my Texans.
Yeah, we miss him on the as a defensive coordinator for the 49ers, but very happy for him. You sprinkling anything on the Super Bowl odds at 14-1?
Uh, no,
No,
I
not that
still,
big of a homer.
yeah, not yet, not yet. I think there may be another year or two away because again, we still have our buddy over there, or lack thereof, Patrick Mahomes. That's still the quarterback for the Chiefs, who absolutely just torches not only the Texans but any team in the AFC. So it's almost that Tom Brady situation again for the Texans that anytime we play the Patriots in the playoffs, it would just be an absolute thrashing by them.
Anytime anybody plays the Patriots in
Yeah.
the playoffs, that you could play them in the regular season and beat them by 2 touchdowns. You see them in the playoffs, good luck to you. No lead is safe.
Yeah, and I mean, again, Patrick Mahomes is still there. He's still the best quarterback, not only the
With his dad
AFC.
bod. He doesn't even care. He's not like Tom Brady.
He just comes to work and just flips a switch, and it's all good for Patrick Mahomes. So
Ugh.
I wouldn't be surprised. Look, if we do get to the championship game, at least in the AFC, and then we probably end up losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. But again, the potential is definitely there for this Texans team.
Okay. All right. So let's look at the Jags, who were once kind of the hot ticket in the division, and now a lot of question marks surrounding their quarterback. So their win total 8.5. They had 9 wins for the last two, I think, back to back previous seasons. Their odds to win the division plus 285, playoffs to make the playoffs at plus 120. They'll have the eighth toughest schedule in the NFL based on their opponents' combined win total for last season. They also have 10 games against teams that went over 500 last year. I think, is Trevor Lawrence a bust or not depends largely on how this season goes. Any early thoughts on the Jags?
Yeah, so they made a lot of moves on the defensive side of the football where they really needed to improve. I know they added your guy Eric Armstead to the defensive line.
Love him.
Yeah, they added Darnell Savage from the Packers as well. I know they needed help at the
First of all,
cornerback
having the
position.
last name Savage as a football player, like, come on,
That's
doesn't
pretty
get better.
baller.
Hmm.
But yeah, look, they made the moves. It's just like you mentioned, like what are we gonna get out of Trevor Lawrence? Because if you just look at their schedule, you mentioned that the eighth hardest schedule, but their first 4 games for the season, 3 of the 4 are on the road. They go to Miami, they welcome Cleveland, and then they have to go to Buffalo and then come to Houston. So, I mean, that's a little bit difficult. And then after that, they play the Colts, another division game. So back-to-back division games before they do go to London. So I think we'll find out very early how good this Jaguars team is. I know they added some depth as well to the wide receiver position. They added Gabe Davis from the Buffalo Bills. They added Devin Duvernay from the Baltimore Ravens. They also did make a draft pick um, from the receiver. I think Brian Thomas is his name from LSU as well. So, but a lot of it, like you mentioned, right, Katie, it's how good is Trevor Lawrence going to be? And the Texans have improved. Um,
Well
you're
coached.
Yeah, they're going to be well coached. I mean, Doug Peterson, I don't want to say his job is on the line here, but I think a lot of the pressure, everything is on Trevor Lawrence right now. So
Hmm.
I'd lean slightly under to this. I think they're probably an 8-win team. Because again, like we mentioned, they have some tough games. I mean, just before their bye week, they have the Packers, they go to Philly, they have the Vikings, and they have to go to Detroit as well. So they have blocks in their schedule there where it's going to be very very tough for them. So I'll go under 8.5 for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I can see that. I think, for them to make the playoffs at plus 120, it's just in this division, um, you know, it's a little bit simpler to make the playoffs
Yeah,
considering
yeah,
you have half of the people you play are not very good.
yeah. I agree. So again, and then you take a look after the bye week. They have the Texans again. They go to Tennessee. Hopefully, Aaron Rodgers still healthy because week 15 they have
Yeah.
a game against the Jets. So and then the last 2 of the 3 games are going to be on the road for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this is going to be a huge year for Trevor Lawrence because I think a lot of talk will then be is like you mentioned, is Trevor Lawrence a bust because he was obviously the number 1 overall pick coming out of Clemson.
Not even the number 1 overall pick. He was supposed to be the second coming of Jesus Christ or, you know, what's his name from the Colts? Why am I blanking on his name?
Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which is so funny that we compare people to Andrew Luck because he didn't stay in the league for all that long. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, he was very impressive and was amazing, but the longevity of what happened to him is not a career that I would want to follow. Obviously, not his fault. All right, looking at speaking of Andrew Luck, let's take a look at the Colts. Their win total 8.5. Look, they started really strong. Anthony Richardson looked great. Obviously got injured a few times there in the beginning of the season, ended up missing the rest of the season. He's got to learn how to protect himself a little bit better. But even without him and with Minshew, this Colts team was frisky and they won some games. So when you look at this win total at 8.5, does this largely rely on Anthony Richardson and his health to you? And if so, how many games do you think he starts?
So everything that I've read, he seems like he's healthy again because it was, I believe, week 4 where he left with a shoulder injury, and everything that I read that he was rehabbing obviously ever since then. So seems like he'll be ready to go for start of training camp and also for week 1. I do expect him to be there for majority of the season. 10, 11, 12 games, barring an injury. They do have a great insurance policy as a backup quarterback with Joe Flacco. We saw what he did last year with with the Browns team last year. But I really like their head coach as well. Shane Steichen was really good
Ah,
last year
yeah.
for this Colts team. Michael Pittman Jr., he's an absolute machine when you talk about just targets and receptions that he is going to get. They added some guys on the defensive side. They beefed up the offensive line as well. I know Jonathan Taylor had missed some time last season for this team, but I think he's going to be a full go for this team here as well. I like this Colts team. I think it's going to come down to what we saw last year, Katie, between the Colts and the Texans fighting for the AFC title. It did take the Jaguars a losing week, the final week in Week 18 for the Texans to win the AFC South title. But I think the Colts and the Texans are going to be going head to head, for this AFC South title. But I do like their over. What was the number 8.5? You said,
8.5, yeah.
yeah. I do think they are a 9-win team.
9-win
They have
team.
a great talent. Yeah.
I agree. I really like this, and you bring up Shane Steichen. I think the Eagles have just recover. They
Oh
were
yeah.
not able to recover from the loss of Shane Steichen. He is like an offensive kind of mastermind, and he's perfect for Anthony Richardson. We saw what he was able to do with Jalen Hurts, and I would argue Jalen Hurts took a pretty big step back last year without Steichen. So we'll see what Anthony Richards can do. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm excited for his anytime touchdown props because that was like an automatic last year while he was playing, and hopefully he learned how to protect himself a
Yeah.
little bit better and not go for some of the things that he went for. Let's go down to the bottom of the barrel of this division. It is the Titans. I don't know what to think about the Titans. I truly don't. Their win total is low at 6.5, the lowest in the division here. Odds to win the division at plus 1,000, playoff odds plus 400. You got Will Levis, mayonnaise boy, as I like to call him. Is he good enough to be a franchise quarterback?
That's the biggest question. Is he going to be the future of this franchise? I think we'll find that out within the first couple weeks, first 4 weeks for the Tennessee Titans. I do think there is some potential there for Will Levis. Now you have a brand new head coach and Brian Callahan coming over from the Cincinnati Bengals, who was their offensive coordinator. So he got to work with guys like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon when he was there before he got traded over to the Texans. So um, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because there was a lot of turnover going on with the Titans last year with Ryan Tannehill
Yep.
being in and out due to injury. You had Malik Willis that they wanted to try out there. And now we know that Will Levis is going to be quarterback number 1 for this team, but also do like some of the moves that they made on the offensive side, right? I know Tony Pollard wasn't very good last year for the Dallas, almost said Dallas Mavericks, but Dallas Cowboys last year. They do have Tajay Spears. It's post Derrick Henry era for this Titans team. You added Calvin Ridley. Now you have Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins that are going to be lined up on opposite sides. So that's going to be tough for them. But like you mentioned, that some team in this division is going to have to take a step back and may take a year or two for this Titans team to, be competitive again in this division. Just because we talked about how good we expect the Texans to be and the Colts to be, one team has to take a step back. I think there will be some growing pains for Brian Callahan, the head coach, and Will Levis. But I do expect this team to, be competitive maybe within a year or two. So it's seriously a toss up. I'll lean with the under on their win total
Yeah.
for this Titans team.
I want nothing to do with the Titans. Now they are in the mix for the worst record of the season at 9-1. I don't know if that's going to be them. There's
No.
still some other questionable teams like the Cardinals still. For me, all right, Munaf, anything else that you like this week? I know that you also host the MLB podcast as well. I mean, how about those Yankees?
How about those Yankees? I know they're missing Juan Soto. It was a great series this week, and I just wish that he was able to play. I know he's dealing with a forearm injury. But
So the
Aaron,
crowd was cheering or
yeah,
chanting "We want Soto" last night, and then I don't know who his backup was. I'm forgetting the name, but he just knocked it out of the park. They're like, and DC Judge was like, "They want who? Who do they want?"
Trent Grisham. Yeah, I saw that last
Yes,
night. It was absolutely hilarious. But
electric.
yeah, I mean, if you're the Yankees, you just need to hand a blank check to Juan Soto because he's been absolutely fantastic for
Changed
this
everything.
team. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's given protection to guys like Aaron Judge and Stanton, of course. But Anthony Volpe at the top of their lineup has been absolutely fantastic for this team as well. They're going to get Garrett Cole back, former Cy Young winner. I believe he'll start throwing, I think, in a couple weeks here before they do get him back. So this team is primed to make a run. I think they do make some additions to their bullpen. And I
Yep.
think they'll be ready to be competitive and maybe get a World Series title this upcoming season. But
Well, do you think there was a lot of people that were saying that
mhm.
this series between the Dodgers looked like a, an October preview. Do you think it's gonna be a Dodgers and Yankees World Series?
The thing that concerns me about the Dodgers is their pitching staff. There's
Yeah.
been a lot of question marks there. I know Tyler Glass now, their addition in the offseason has been pretty good thus far. You have Yamamoto there as well, but I still feel like
Mhm.
they need to add another guy in that rotation.
Well, 'cause Shohei's not pitching this season, right? Because
No,
of his
he's not.
yep.
Yeah, he's not pitching. He'll be back. I think he said next year where he's going to start pitching again for this Dodgers team. So, but when you have three former MVPs at the top of your lineup with Mookie Betts, for Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman, that's also going to be a very very difficult to get through. I know they're also dealing with some injuries to guys down their lineup. I know Max Muncy's been missing for them as well, but I hope that we do get a Dodgers and Yankees World Series. That should
The
be
MLB could
so.
only be so lucky to have 2 of the biggest franchises
Oh,
go the numbers would be unlike what they've seen recently.
yeah, it would be absolutely just so fun to watch that between these two teams. Just the pure star power
Yeah.
that is on both sides of this team. And luckily for Yankee fans, that Juan Soto's injury is not too serious. I think Aaron Boone came out and said that he'll miss the next few games. So I don't expect him to play in the series against I believe they have the Royals early in the week here, but they do
Which
expect him to get
whatever.
him back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you're a Yankees fan, you're definitely excited. You get Garrett Cole back. Luis Heel has been absolutely dominant for this team. He should be rookie of the year if he's able to, just stay at bay. He had a pretty good start last night as well. So, yeah, Yankee fans definitely get excited.
I mean, I'm living in New York for like one more month, so I am excited along with them. Haven't gone to a Yankees game this year, but I'm sure the tickets are a little bit more expensive than they were last season. Munaf, thank you so much for joining us today, and joining as much as you have here on Moxie Bets. We really, really appreciate all the time that you have lent to us. You can follow him on social at SportsNerd824. You can also check him out on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And again, we're doing the NBA pod, we're doing the MLB pod, and then of course you're going to get into football here at some point.
Yeah, football is right around the corner. I think we were already in June, so as soon as July hits, and I know we have the Hall of Fame game that starts in August, so it's always busy times when you're covering all three sports. But
Yeah.
appreciate you having me on, Katie. It's been a lot of fun. But yeah, let's go sports.
Let's go sports. This has been Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social as well at Moxie Bets. We'll see you next time.